everyone. My name is Samantha Hendricks. I'm the event coordinator here at Schuler Books. We have 3 locations here in Michigan, one in Grand Rapids, one in Okemos, and one in Ann Arbor. It's actually called Nicola's Books over there on the east side of the state. So I want to thank you all for joining us this evening. We have a special program here with you virtually with Johnny and Becki Agar joining us. Hello to both of you.
Hi, Samantha. How are you?
Hi, I'm well. And we have Terri DeBoer, who is actually going to host the evening for us. So I'm going to give a quick intro, and then I'm going to hand it over to Terri. So first of all, we have Johnny Agar, who gained international attention when he walked a mile in his church's annual 5K. That sounds like an odd reason for fame, except for the reality of Johnny's severe cerebral palsy. Even with a lifetime of physical therapy, before this race, the longest distance he'd ever previously walked was 23 steps. Since that incredible feat, Johnny and his father, Jeff, have partnered in countless races, including the infamous Ironman World Championship in Kona, Hawaii, which was chronicled by NBC. Johnny has been featured on The Today Show, Inside Edition, NBC Nightly News, People, USA Today, Huffington Post, and ESPN SportsCenter. His tenacity and amazing spirit have inspired numerous professional and Olympic athletes. And Johnny is a brand ambassador for the sports apparel company Under Armour. Among his other roles, he serves as the athletic ambassador for the Cerebral Palsy Foundation, and he's proud to have earned a dual major in sports management and business administration from Aquinas in Grand Rapids. The Impossible Mile is his first book. Becki is an advocate, philanthropist, and mother of 3 children. After beginning a career as a credit analyst, Becki's passion for children led her to open a daycare. And when she had children of her own, she closed that daycare to raise them, an experience that has been her greatest blessing in her life. Becki currently fundraises and advocates for organizations that have been amazing with helping children who have special needs to be as independent as possible on their journeys through life. She graduated from Grand Valley State University with a degree in sociology and a minor in psychology. This is also her first book. And then we have Terri DeBoer, who is a television meteorologist here in the west side of the state, has delivered West Michigan's wake up weather for 3 decades. She also co-hosts a daily lifestyle show, 8 West. Her public journey through the seasons of life, from on-air pregnancies to the marriages of her 2 children and becoming a grandmother, gives her a special connection to other moms and grandmas. She now shares those lessons from her most challenging seasons in life, adjusting to the quarter life of an empty nest. And she resides here in the west side of Michigan, Byron Center. And she also has a new book out, which we'll talk about later too. So Terri, I'm going to hand this over to you. Thank you guys. I'm going to disappear for a hot minute. If you guys have any questions during this chat, please drop them in the comments and we will get to them towards the end.
Sounds great. Thanks, Samantha. Thank you, Becki and Johnny, for inviting me to be part of this very special evening. We've been on this author journey together for quite a while. And so I want to start out by talking about your collaborative process in writing The Impossible Mile. And I have to say, this is one of the best Christmas presents I can think of for anybody on your list, no matter what age, because it will encourage people to live their best lives, no matter what the circumstance.
Thanks, Terri.
Thanks, Terri.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the process of writing the book.
Well, my mom was lucky enough to be my teacher all throughout grade school and high school. So we had a good system down as to how we wanted to write papers and things. And so after I had graduated college and placed importance on my studies, I decided that it was time to write a book because I had a couple of professors at Aquinas asked me if I could write a book, and also, throughout my various speaking engagements that I do, people always wanted to know more about my story. So I thought, it was a perfect time to write it and give people a message of hope, especially when we felt that they would need it the most. So anyway.
Yeah, and it was a natural process. We had people come up to us after talks and they'd say, you know, okay, where's the book? Because we want to know more about how this came to be and how you know, what your outlook is on life. And when he graduated, like Johnny said, we decided we were going to sit down and start writing the book. And it was a natural thing for us because, like he said, I had homeschooled him. And I was his aide throughout college. So whenever he'd have to write a paper, I would be the one to type it in and edit as he dictated to me what. So it was just a natural thing for us, and it flowed really easily for us to be able to do, you know, start working on the book. So
we had to go up about 1,000 words a day, and so that was what we thought we could handle. And so when Mom would always get really emotional, though, that was a difficult thing for me because, you know, when you're going through stuff.
Yeah, you're opening up the memory book, right? And so it was so funny because sometimes some of the memories that I would remember when he was a baby, which obviously he didn't recall, but I'd get so caught up in the words that I'd start crying, and he just turn his power on his chair and he's just gonna turn away.
Come back when Mom was, because I didn't know what to say or anything, so I would just let her have her time, and so, but we had a good time with it. So
yeah, so it was, you know, it's interesting, Becki. I love how you really start the journey and the chronicle from just the beginning. How, I mean, when Johnny was born, the odds were really stacked against him, and even in the very beginning, what gave you that hope that you would be able to raise this child to fulfill the potential that God had on his life?
Yeah, you know, I've always tried to be a really positive person, and kind of my faith has really been a strong presence in my life. And I think that's part of the reason as to why I realized a long time ago that I'm really not in control of what happens in my life. And, you know, God has a plan, and I may not know what that plan is, but I just have to trust it. So when Johnny was our firstborn and we got called into the doctor's office, the neonatologist told us to sit down, and he said, you know, there's a bleed on Johnny's brain. First of all, just to back up, Johnny was born prematurely. So he was 11 weeks early, and he was 3 pounds, 7 ounces. So we knew that there could be complications. Obviously, he was pretty tiny.
Well, it's interesting, Becki, because you say that, and with today's technology in 2021, somebody given that diagnosis, it would not have been as dire as what you faced when, what are you, 23, 24, Johnny?
27.
That's correct.
27. Yeah, so that many years ago, I mean, medical technology and the expertise was not nearly what it is right now.
Oh, that's
Right.
true.
Right.
That's true, Terry. Yeah.
Right. And so there were a lot of, there were a lot of issues. You know, he was in the red a lot of the time, and he'd get better, and then he'd tank again. And, you know, it was a roller coaster ride for sure.
Not a good thing.
During the whole NICU, the neonatal intensive care. But anyway, the doctor called us in and said, we found this bleed on Johnny's brain, and we're pretty certain that where his bleed in the brain is, that he's going to have some kind of problem with speaking and, you know, being physically mobile, walking, and, you know, and they told us that he had cerebral palsy. So this will date you. So at the time we said, you know, what books do we read? Right. This is because the internet wasn't a thing back then.
Right.
And he said, you know, you can read all the books that you want to read, and I can give them to you. But he said, what I found is a lot of times when parents read those books, they anticipate things happening when things may not happen. You know, you might be limiting him in his progress even before you know what his limits are. And he said, you know, you could read the books, or you can just love him as your son and take it day by day. And so we definitely, you know, we left the office and said, that's what we're doing. And we made a commitment to just take it day by day and love him and treat him just as our typical son. So.
Yeah. And how important was it that, I mean, your husband, Jeff, Johnny's father, was a professional athlete. How important was the idea of sports in the Agar household, even from the very beginning?
So it was really interesting because my parents always had, sports in their backgrounds. And so all the time Dad would watch sports with me, and he just told me that, I would have to work as hard as my favorite athletes do to become stronger and more independent in life.
And that was that was the language Johnny understood. If you related, even when he was 4, we took a trip to Poland for some therapy, and he was only 4, right? But it was intensive therapy. And we're in a foreign country where nobody spoke English, and he didn't do well with change anyway, and he was only 4. But if we told him that, if we put like a Steve Yzerman jersey on him, he knew he was going to be Steve Yzerman for the day, and he had to work hard, and he understood that. And if he was, do whatever therapy it was that he was doing, he was blocking the goal, or he was blocking the net, and working harder to be the better player, just like Steve Yzerman did on the ice. So he could relate to that.
But it was a very good parallel because, and I thank my parents for that parallel because, it's not easy doing stuff for your first time, but that was such a good parallel for me, and I could understand that that's one of the things that I wanted to do. Competing in sports when I got older is I wanted to find a way that I could participate in sports, and wheelchair sports weren't really a thing for me because I can only use one hand.
Right.
And we like to say who would want a person on their team who could only go in circles.
Well, there's got to be a sport for that, though, right? Maybe you could be a professional merry-go-round rider or something.
Yeah.
Or NASCAR only goes in one direction too, right? There's got to be something out there. Let's just put our thinking caps on. So let's talk about how why don't you tell everybody how Jeff got the idea of, okay, we're going to do these events and we're going to do them together. And Johnny and Jeff would be partners in this whole process.
Actually, it all started with our daughter, Annie, decided she wanted to go out and run in the neighborhood. Actually, she was going to walk the dog, and she came back and the dog was panting, and she ended up running, and she ran like 6 miles, just not without any training. And so then she realized she loved it. And so she started going out more. And Jeff said, well, if she's going out, then I probably should go out with her just to make sure she's being safe, because she was running further distances. And so he would ride his bike. And then he thought, that's kind of pathetic for me to ride my bike. I should just run with her. But she got to be so fast that she'd run ahead of him. And then he said, Johnny, why don't we run? We had friends of ours who had a jogger, and they weren't using it anymore. So we borrowed the jogger from them, and they started off running. And that was the summer that they were in every 5K in the area. We had so much fun. It was just something as a family that we did. And Johnny was having so much fun doing something with his dad and sisters. And that's kind of how the whole thing started. And then he kept upping the game because Johnny would be done and he'd just smile and he'd say, somebody come up to Jeff and say, if you did the, 15K, it'll be nothing to do a half marathon. And it's just a few more miles to train. And Johnny's smiling really big, and Jeff's like, oh my goodness. I guess we can.
What have you got me into?
Yes, exactly. It's really hard though. It was hard for Jeff and I to not try to do something, because all Johnny's whole life, we'd always told him, you've got to try it. you just have to try. And so, what kind of parents would we have been had we not tried? So it was interesting.
Yeah.
And when you started connecting with people, and people really started taking notice then, especially as you got onto the bigger stage and started doing the bigger events and the bigger competitions. What was that like for you? And what has that been like for you, for these people that are professional athletes, people like Michael Phelps that you have looked up to, and they're probably some of the best athletes to have ever been on the planet. And they're looking up to you for this accomplishment that you've had. What has that part of this journey been like?
Oh, it's been a tremendous motivator for me to not settle for anything, to keep going and to keep working. And I think it's a tremendous thing to have a lot of them be endorsers of the book, because I think it's a great way for me to show people that, hey, I'm a person that can barely walk and can walk with a walker, but look at me working with a lot of these athletes, and what can you do if you work hard enough? It may not be sports, but it can be something else that you always have wanted to do. So it's just been a tremendous thing, and I'm very thankful that they take the time to share their thoughts with me and just keep me motivated as I go through life. So.
Yeah, and you talk about the lessons in the book. Becki, what are you hoping that maybe a young family who has a child born and the doctor comes in and says, there are some issues here physically, developmentally with this new baby. What is the hope that you have now with this book and the messages that are contained on these pages?
Everybody's journey is different, but I would hope that parents, especially with younger kids that they've found out have special needs, I hope that they are find some encouragement from the book. We never wanted to sell Johnny short. I mean, just because he had cerebral palsy doesn't mean that he can't dream and try to do anything he wants to do. It may be, a long way around. Johnny wanted to play sports. We didn't say you can't play sports, even though he can't throw a ball. He can't kick a ball. It's very difficult for him to move his body to do sports, but we never told him he couldn't. And I think that's half the battle. If you think that your kids can, and you give them the tools to make them feel that they can, the world is their oysters, what I like to say. And I think that, you don't ever want to sell them short. We didn't ever want to say that Johnny had cerebral palsy. It was very important for us to not have the therapist mention it to him. We just didn't want it in our vocabulary at all. And the reason being is we got a lot of grief from it from time to time, because people thought we were in denial, and you have to face the fact that he's got these limitations and things like that. And Jeff and I wanted Johnny to be able to, once he got old enough, to be able to say, okay, this is what I'm limited. We wanted him to decide that on his own. I didn't want somebody, when I'd pick him up at school, I didn't want the teacher or his helper, his aide, to be able to say, well, he can't do this. And that's pretty typical because he has cerebral palsy. So I guess just don't put any limitations on your kids. Don't count them out for anything. It's amazing what can be done. We met somebody years ago, Mr. Menendez, and he had no arms, and he plays the guitar and with his feet. And it was amazing to sit with this man and watch him. And you cannot tell me, if somebody had said you can't play the guitar, he wouldn't have ever picked up a guitar. So, I just don't ever I think it's really important just to not ever count your kids out. Just because.
But I think it's also important. I was very blessed in that mom and dad never took it easy on me, and you know, they never assumed because I had challenges just to give me stuff. They made me they made me earn it. So
yeah, they had high expectations for you. They saw, they see what an incredibly smart and remarkable young man that you are, and you could have never achieved that if they would have just coddled you or just protect you. We have to bubble wrap you.
Yeah, and I think it was important too. You know, we had Annie early on. There's 2 years difference between Annie and Johnny, and then Gracie later. And I think it was important for them to see too that I'm not, you know, Annie had come up to me at one point and said, Mom, why isn't Johnny doing chores? She was having to take the dishes out of the dishwasher or something. And I said, you know what? You're exactly right. And so we had a scooter board. I got him on his belly on the scooter board. I handed him a wet rag and I said, clean the floor.
Oh man.
So that's why he says we never really played favorites. If, you know, he was a typical kid, he had to do the typical things that kids had to do. So
that's fantastic. I love that. Next time I see Annie, I'm going to ask her about that.
She'll tell you, no problem.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about this kind of whirlwind adventure you've been on. You released your book a few weeks ago, and you have been really having a great opportunity to share your story and to talk to a lot of really cool people. Let's talk about that journey that you've been on. What are some of the coolest experiences you've had since you launched the book?
You know, just to hear people's stories of how the book has impacted them, and I get messages constantly, and you know, it really tells me that, hey, you know what, this is not just because I wanted to write the book. I'm on a mission, and the book is really, I'm very blessed to say has really helped a lot of people, and I hope it will continue to help a lot of people accomplish their own impossible miles. So.
Yeah, that's the biggest blessing out of this whole thing is it's not so much, it's just hearing from people saying, oh my goodness, you know, if Johnny can walk this mile, you know, I certainly can do X, Y, or Z. And so
what's your impossible mile? I mean, that's a great question for people. What is your impossible mile? Let's talk about the cover of the book, because I mean, I really think that it's a powerful image. They say that, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And I think this picture on this cover is worth 10,000 words. It is spectacular. Vision for what this cover would be for this book.
So we had a lot of creative team at our publisher, Dexterity. They helped us a lot with bringing our vision for the book and putting it in the cover. And we think that they did a tremendous job. But I love that my favorite part is the I am, how it's kind of faded out. And I love that because, you know, the impossible really is so easy to do, really, if you just take out 2 letters of the word impossible. And I think, you know, it tells people that, you know, the impossible really can be done if you have the right people around you, like my dad is standing right beside me.
Yeah, that's what and the picture actually was taken, I took that picture at the Under Armour shoot when we went out to California when he was shooting the commercial.
Mom's so proud to take all the credit for the photography.
No, I love the picture because in the background it has the mountains. And I think it's so for Johnny's impossible mile. You know, he's had so many mountains to climb. I love that the blue sky is the majority of the picture because that's the heavens, right? That's God's kind of watching over us. And that's how I look at it. And I love that Jeff is walking beside him because, you know, everybody needs somebody to accompany them through life and through the hard times. And that's what Jeff's doing in the picture. So it just was we saw it, and we just, when Dexterity put it to us, I said, that has got to be it. It's just, it's just really.
Yeah, it is amazing. And, you just look at that and you think forever that that moment in time that was so precious and for so many different reasons is people will look at that and think, boy, what an incredible picture that is, that just does such a great job in capturing that special relationship. So I was asking you, Johnny, before we started this interview segment, what's next for you? Because you have to be training for something, right? Of course, launching a book is like running a marathon. And
sure. You know that.
The next physical event.
Yeah, our next racing event is actually, we just found out about it. It's going to be in Atlanta, the Publix Marathon in Atlanta. So we're excited about that, and we're going to go down there and try our very best to complete that. And our buddies, the Pease brothers, are going to be there too. They invited us, so we're excited. We're going to have a lot of friends down there, so it's going to be great. And my impossible mile that I want to conquer outside of racing is, I would really like to live independently. My parents have taught me so many lessons, and as much as I love them dearly, they would like me to live independently as well. So that's my next goal. So yeah.
Yeah, and it is interesting because you think about those just different goals that you have, and each one of them along the way for a variety of different reasons has seemed as though it's had some obstacles, but it seems like when you see an obstacle, you figure out a strategy of how can I get my way around that and accomplish that. So are you really in the process of working through what are those practical things that you need to do?
Yeah, well, Terry, it's like in your book, Brighter Skies Ahead. You were missing your kids, right? But you found different ways to overcome and adapt to those, and some of those take you time. But I think, if you set a goal for yourself and having in your mind that you can accomplish it, then you're more apt to achieve it. So.
And I think the biggest thing is, people are afraid to fail. They're afraid to be embarrassed or not reach their goal. But if you never take the step, you won't ever reach your goal. And with Johnny, he's taught us a valuable lesson just within our family is that, he fails multiple times every day. He doesn't get anything on the first try. And he doesn't care. He just knows that it's part of the process. And so we've just realized, that failing is not a scary thing. It can be if you make it that way, but if you look at it as it's just part of the process, then, you can take that first step and that second step and reach your goal with, like Johnny said, with just baby steps. So.
Yeah. Well, if you look at your failures as being the final step, instead of just one of many steps,
right,
then it's easier to keep going and to keep moving along. So Becki, how are you feeling about maybe being an empty nester? I think I have a book that you need to read.
Well, I know he says his goal is to be independent, so I'm very much for that. But it will be extremely hard. So yeah, I have your book. So I'm preparing myself for what I need to do for sure. I remember our neighbor was when her son left, it was her last child left, she would walk up and down our street just sobbing. And my kids were younger at the time, and I just felt so bad for her. But I had no idea what to do for her. And and Brighter Skies Ahead, I wish I'd had the book for her. I would hand it out to her because there's such a well laid out plan to do. So I'm so very happy that you have this book.
Yeah, I was looking at the book going, maybe that's an excuse for me to to start heading out here. So it's like, you took care of mom, now it's time for me to.
Well, Johnny, don't worry about your mom. I'll make sure that she has plenty of things to occupy herself. Maybe we'll start our own book club. How does that
There
sound?
we go. There we go.
So why don't you guys share with us a little bit? I know that I was writing my book, my manuscript, as the pandemic shutdown started. What was it like for you to have this big project that you were working on? You really had a lot of creative energy. You obviously had deadlines. You had a commitment to a publisher. Was it really during the 2020 shutdown period, did having the book give you a lot of purpose?
Oh my gosh.
Oh without a doubt. Yeah. It gave me, something to look forward to, and something, the impossible mile, as you know, Terry, when you write a book, it's kind of your mission. So that was the thing that I had to get done, that I was excited about and had a lot of energy behind.
And like Johnny said, we had a great team with Dexterity Publishing. They're just so awesome. And they made
Tom Dean as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Tom Dean was actually on both of our teams helping us get our books done. So he's fantastic.
Yeah. So he walked us
around you to help the process and whatever you're doing.
Yes. Yeah. But it was great. COVID was a hard year for Johnny, as it was for most people. But for Johnny, he can't really get out when it's winter, and the Y, he would go to the Y to work out, but the Y obviously was closed. And so he was really stuck inside. So the book really was just a blessing to be able to work on that and, wake up and know we had something we had to do and get done and goals to reach and that type of thing. So
you couldn't just binge watch Netflix all day.
During the pandemic, we wrote 3,000 words a day.
Hey, Samantha, I see you're back with us.
I am. I just wanted to drop in. I don't want to stop the conversation. Just wanted to remind everyone, if you have questions for Becki or for Johnny, please drop them in the comments and we can definitely ask those for you. Don't be afraid to ask any questions. So Terry, if you have a couple more questions, you can keep going.
Oh yeah. So what's next with the with promoting the book, and are you thinking about another book or another book project? I know that, as I've been launching my book and reading a lot about how to launch a book and how to market a book and all those sorts of things. They say that it's kind of the long view. They really view it as a year-long process of launching a book. Are you working on something else right now?
So as far as the next event for the book we have coming up, we have an event coming up in Farmington House. A good friend of mine a good friend of our family has a athlete lab that he is opening up, and it's his grand opening. So we're gonna go over to Farmington Hills and help him open up his new athlete lab, and just talk to some of the folks that are gonna be present at the grand opening
and have a book signing.
And have a book signing there. But it's awesome to see so many friendly faces again. That's been my favorite part about the book, is just seeing so many friendly faces again. So we're excited as things keep going here, Terry, and I know you feel the same way too. But it's been awesome, and we're so excited for this opportunity here today. Thank you to Samantha and everybody at Schuler Books, and we're excited. So
yeah, it is really, and as I've been on this journey too, and I know that we've had a chance to chat about this, that now that I am a published author, it's important we support our local bookstores, our local book retailers, the locally owned businesses that are right here in our very own community that have been really the literary backbone of our communities. And so that things are open again and people are able to get out and actually do local shopping, the importance of supporting your local bookstores is so important. I know, Becki, as you and Johnny have been traveling around promoting your book, hasn't it just been remarkable just to see how these local bookstores are filling such a great niche in each of these communities?
It is. It's great. It's funny, when Johnny was little, our date night, Jeff and I's date night, was to go to Schuler's. I loved their salad. And so I know, we'd eat the salad and we would just sit there and peruse the books. Sometimes we'd sit and just start reading a book or magazine. It was so wonderful. That was our favorite date night to do. So yeah, we love Schuler's. We were just at Epilogue Books in Rockford, as you were, I think.
I was just there too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it's been great. It's like you said, it's a marathon for sure. It's not a sprint. And Tom Dean keeps reminding, I'm sure he reminds you of that too.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's, and how does it feel when you meet people, especially the people who have had advanced copies or they got them immediately and have read them, and then they come up to you in person and they've been truly touched and moved by the truth that you have written in your story?
It's really, they say, people always say that they inspire, we inspire them, but in reality, they're the ones that come up to us and we're inspired by them. So I think it's a cycle of inspiration is what I like to call it. So
yeah,
we had it's so wonderful. We had a friend who's a dear friend of ours, and she got a copy of the book, and she called and she said, I'm 40 pages in and I absolutely love it. And then she called me again. She said, okay, I'm almost 3/4 of the way through. And she said, I can't put it down. And I just went out and bought 10 copies because I'm giving him gifts. It just was so wonderful to hear that something in the book resonates with every walk of life. It's been pretty amazing. When Johnny decided he wanted to walk the mile, we thought maybe he would touch 1 or 2 people that were in a wheelchair that had some kind of a disability. And we have, but really, we've heard from people all over the world from this journey, reaching out to Johnny because they wanted to lose 5 pounds. And they thought if Johnny walked a mile, they could definitely lose 5 pounds. Or somebody was addicted and they were battling this addiction, and Johnny gave them the strength to go to rehab. They wanted a better relationship with their spouse. And, so it's just been absolutely amazing. And it's been just such a beautiful gift as Johnny's mom to be able to see him encourage other people. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So
I think it's awesome. I want to say, so Tom is sneaky. He came in, I'm only in the office a couple days a week, and he came in and he had been emailing me and back and forth, and we were trying to figure out dates. And then he came and he dropped a book on my desk. And normally when books get dropped off to us, I don't get to them. But it came on my desk and I picked it up and I was like, okay, I'm going to read a chapter on my lunch break, and I'm just set it aside. And I didn't read a chapter. I think I read like 4. So I was like, we'll get them in here. We'll make it happen. Don't worry. So thanks for extending my
Thank you, Samantha.
yeah, thanks.
So I want to I think you guys are amazing. Your story is wonderful. And Terri, thank you so much for hosting tonight. This has been such a great conversation. I want to let everyone know I did drop the links for both of their books in the chat. If you do place an order online with us, be sure to put in the comments that you want a signed copy. And when all 3 of these wonderful humans stop in our store, we'll make sure that you get a signed copy. And they all agreed to personalize them as well. So if you want something special in there, just put that in the notes. So
yeah, it is great. Yeah. And I've been so inspired by you guys. It's been fun to be on this journey toward authorship at the almost exact same time. We've been able to get even closer connected. I've had the blessing of working with Annie at Wood TV. And so I sort of feel like I've been woven into the fabric of the Agar family for a very long time. I met you before I met Annie. I remember you at Aquinas College. I remember you coming down to Art Prize. And I love your smile. I love that you're one of the most joyful human beings I've ever been around. And that your joy has turned into inspiration as you're making such an impact in the world. And I just want to say congratulations to you, Becki, and to Jeff, and to your whole family. And thank you for letting me be a part of this evening with you.
Thank you so much, Terri. We're so blessed to be able to have this journey together with you. When you called and said, hey, guess what? It was just, it was just a wonderful, wonderful thing. And we're so excited for you and Brighter Skies Ahead.
Thank you.
Your new book. I know there's going to be great things ahead for you as well. So
thank you. Thanks, Samantha.
Yeah, my pleasure. I want to thank you all and have a wonderful evening to everyone watching. If you tuned in late, I saw a few of you jump in. We'll put the recording up tomorrow so you can catch the beginning of the chat. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.